So this is a pretty good chapter, and we're going in a very different direction with this one, coming off of the divisive previous chapter where we got the exposition dump with all of Hikari's domain expansion abilities and all that stuff. And at the end of that chapter, it seemed like he defeated Charles, although, it's really up in the air at this point, but I'm pretty sure he did, or at least I hope he did, because I'm assuming he's gonna be coming back soon. And he and Panda are in the same colony here, because in the beginning of this chapter where we see Panda on top of these shipping crates, he says, "I intended to leave the fighting to Hikari, but we got separated right away, dropping us in random places the moment we entered the barriers." So yeah, a couple chapters back when we saw Yuji first enter the colony, he just randomly spawned in the sky and started falling. So naturally the same thing is happening to everyone, and Panda and Hikari got separated because of this. Now also, as Panda says in this chapter, his role was to find and negotiate with the angel, Hanakurusu, who has an ability to nullify curse techniques, and they were going to try to get her to help release Gojo from the prison realm. That's one of the big elements of this arc, actually. And back in chapter 160, when the original group was kind of planning out what they were going to do, they were looking at a list of the players with the most points, and at that time it was Higuruma and Kashimo. And Hikari figured that Kashimo is probably the strongest, and he's kind of right. So he said that he should handle Kashimo and that Panda should go out and find Angel because of his good nose, which we also see him using in this chapter. But unfortunately it didn't work out that way, and we see Panda running into Kashimo here. And they have this little comical exchange at first where Panda is trying to act like an actual panda, and Kashimo summons the Kogane and asks if it's a player. And I love this sequence, and also love the way Kashimo is using the Kogane here. So far, Kashimo is the best at utilizing the actual culling game itself, because when we were originally introduced to Kashimo in I think chapter 158, we saw him adding that rule that disclosed information on all of the players. Also, I keep saying him, and at this point I don't know if it's revealed what their gender is, because there's gender neutral dialogue in this chapter referring to Kashimo. So forgive me if it's eventually revealed that they're not a guy, but I'm just gonna say he because it's just simpler for the review. But once Kashimo finds out that Panda is a player, he immediately speed blitz him and punches through him. And Panda says it's like Fushigoro's knew. This player's cursed energy is like a current of electricity. They're in a state of constant electrification. In other words, they're impossible to defend against. And that's the first little insight that we got into Kashimo's abilities, which is not his curse technique. Hey, also guys, if you like my Jujutsu Kaisen reviews, please subscribe if you haven't already. A lot of you consistently watch them, but you don't subscribe. So if you just needed to be reminded, here you go. Thank you. Panda goes into his gorilla mode and hits Kashimo with his unblockable drumming beat. And despite Kashimo blocking this still will affect him, because that attack sends a shockwave through the person and reverberates inside of them, which leads to Kashimo saying, "Going for internal damage? Not bad." So I guess that did get some kind of reaction out of him. But he immediately snaps off Panda's arm and throws it at him, and then lights him up with consecutive right hands. And yeah, this is just immediately establishing that Kashimo is as strong as we assumed that he was going to be. I mean, he was kind of built up as a powerhouse in more ways than one, through Hikari's dialogue, his points being established so early on because he had 200 points super fast, and also the fact that he implied he was from 400 years ago, and he's actively looking for Sukuna, which is I guess his big MacGuffin here. And coming to that, after he knocks Panda into a shipping container with those punches, he asks him do you know where Sukuna is? And this goes back to chapter 158, after he killed another sorcerer, blowing a hole through them. He says they're all too weak. They were much stronger 400 years ago, leading us to believe that Kashimo is from 400 years ago, most likely, which is interesting because that's also the time that Ryu is implied to come from as well. So do they know each other, or did they fight once or something? I mean, Ryu is still alive, so he can always come back into this at some point, and maybe he'll be hey, I know that guy. He's from when I existed back in the day. And then Panda says what do they want Sukuna for? I doubt it's good for Itadori. And of course Panda doesn't tell him because, why would he sell his friend Yuji out? That leads to the question of what does Kashimo want with Sukuna? On the surface, it seems like he kind of just wants to fight him, right? Like, other than coming from the same time period as Ryu, maybe he is similar to him in that he's just been searching for a satisfying fight, because that was like Ryu's thing. And I'm assuming that, you know, since Sukuna's heyday, he has been like a legend throughout the Jujutsu world for the last 1,000 years or so. So naturally, Kashimo 400 years ago would be aware of him, being the king of curses. So I'm assuming that Kenjaku came across Kashimo, you know, back in the day and was like, hey, you're looking for a good fight, somebody who could test you, and you seem like a Sukuna stan. What if I told you that you could fight Sukuna himself, but you kind of have to enter into this deal with me? I'll make you into a cursed object, and then in about 400 years, I'll have somebody ingest you, and then you'll become them, but then you'll have to participate in this culling game, and in that culling game, you can fight Sukuna. And then I guess Kashimo was like, say less. Now there could be a twist, of course. Maybe Kashimo like isn't trying to fight Sukuna, but is like trying to serve him. Or maybe Kashimo is part of the greater plan here, kind of like how Urarame is. I think that would be interesting too, rather than him just wanting like a worthy fight or something. But the former is fine too. But anyway, following this, we get the big reveal of what Panda's sister form is. Because up until this point, we had never seen it before, and we knew that Panda had like 3 cores within him. The regular Panda type, which is like his balanced form, and then the gorilla mode, which is like his power form, and then there was like this third one that we never saw. And it looks like a curse, to be honest. It's like a feminine-esque body with this huge triceratops rhinoceros head thing. It's kind of similar to like the alien queen from Aliens. There's a lot going on here, and it does look pretty cool, but immediately jobbing to Kashimo. I mean, that's just this whole chapter in a nutshell, which I'm not mad at all, because this is establishing Kashimo as like a huge threat, because I'm assuming that this is going to lead to a big epic fight after this possibly. But before I go into what I think is going to happen, Kashimo's ability is revealed here, and it says that Kashimo separates the cursed energy's charges like electricity. When striking an opponent, a positive charge is transferred, and the negative charge in Kashimo is discharged to the target without losing any electricity toward the ground. This results in lightning that rends the air and can't miss without the need to cast a domain. So this is basically like high level nuanced jujitsu stuff. And I appreciate that Gege didn't go too Gege with this one. So to simplify this, it's as it sounds. The positive and the negative charges attract to each other, just like in real life. So he's giving his opponent a positive charge with a strike, and then he still has like a negative charge within him, and then he simply just sends that to the positive charge that he already gave to his opponent, and it basically creates a lightning strike that just wrecks them. Pretty cool stuff here, and I wonder if this is related to what Sukuna and Urarame are doing, because Sukuna showed Jogo that he could like manipulate fire, and that Jogo wouldn't know about it, and obviously that wasn't related to what Sukuna's implied curse techniques may or may not be. And also we saw Urarame being able to use ice, and on the surface it seems like that's Urarame's curse technique, but at this point maybe it's not. Maybe at the highest level of jujitsu you could just manipulate your cursed energy and turn them into elements somehow. Maybe not, but you know, it's just something to think about. But anyway, this lightning bolt like explodes Panda, and then the chapter ends with Kashimo saying, now where's Sukuna? So unless Panda's sister form has like some kind of crazy ability that allows them to come back from this and somehow fight against Kashimo despite being completely overpowered here, I expect Hikari to come to save the day, and then we get our big fight here where it's like Hikari is fully tested, because Hikari against Charles kind of established that Hikari was super powerful, and we got introduced to his abilities and whatnot, so we knew what he was mostly about. And the same thing's happening with Kashimo here. So now that both of these stages have been set, they could go against each other and we could get probably a crazy fight. But let me know what you think about this chapter in the comments, guys, and if you liked it, please give it a like, and please subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.